Millions of pilgrims moved in perfect circles around the Kaaba, their lips whispering prayers, their eyes heavy with tears. The air was filled with labbaik, Allahumma labbaik, a sound so powerful it felt like it was shaking the sky itself. She sat quietly near the courtyard, a woman in a simple white abaya, her face covered, her hands trembling in dua. People who passed by assumed the same thing they assumed about everyone else there. She must be chosen by Allah. Look how still she is, how deeply she's praying. Her name was Jannat Noor, and no one, not a single soul, knew what was about to happen next. Suddenly, her whispering stopped. Her hands froze in midair. At first, it looked like exhaustion. Pilgrims often faint there. Guards are trained for it. No one panicked. Then, her breathing changed. It wasn't quiet anymore. It wasn't human. A strange, choking sound escaped her throat. The woman sitting beside her turned her head and screamed. People stepped back as Janat's body began to shake violently. Her face lifted slowly toward the Kaaba, as if something invisible was pulling her chin upward. And that's when it happened. Her face began to twist, not with pain, but with something far worse. Her skin tightened unnaturally, her jaw stretched, her eyes widened in terror as if she was seeing something no one else could see. Then her tongue slowly slid out of her mouth, longer than it should have been, dark and trembling. People gasped, phones fell from hands, a circle formed around her without anyone even realizing it. Ya Allah, someone whispered, this isn't normal. Before anyone could reach her, coarse black hair began pushing through her skin, first on her arms, then her neck, then her face, thick, wild, animal-like. Her fingers bent painfully as long, sharp nails burst forward, scraping against the marble floor. The sound echoed, scratch, scratch, scratch. Her feet twisted inward, her posture collapsed forward. The woman who had been praying moments ago no longer looked human. She looked like something else, something feral, something that did not belong in the house of Allah. Panic exploded. People ran backward, shouting prayers, crying, calling for help. Some covered their eyes, some fell to their knees in fear, and in the middle of it all, Janat let out a sound that no one there would ever forget. A broken beast-like cry, mixed with a human sob. Tears streamed down her distorted face, not tears of repentance, tears of recognition, because at that moment, standing in front of the Kaaba, her heart finally understood something her lips had ignored for years. This was not happening to her. This was happening because of her. And the reason was far darker than anyone there could imagine. Before that terrifying moment in front of the Kaaba, before the screams, before the fear, Jannat Noor was just another name, or at least, that's what people believed. She lived in a crowded neighborhood where stories traveled faster than truth. People knew her as that poor woman with 2 children, a mother who had suffered too much too early. Her husband had died years ago. That was the story everyone heard. No one asked questions after that. She had a son, barely 12, and a daughter, small, fragile, always clinging to her mother's hand. Whenever Jannat walked through the streets with them, people's hearts softened. Some looked away in pity. Some whispered prayers for her. Some reached into their pockets, and Jannat noticed. She noticed everything. At first, she resisted. She really did, she told herself. I will work. I will manage. Allah is watching. But work was hard to find. Respect was even harder. Then one day, standing at a traffic signal under the burning sun, her daughter fainted from hunger. That moment cracked something inside her. The next day, she tried something different. She dressed her children in old, torn clothes. She taught her son to lower his eyes. She told her daughter to look weak, helpless, and it worked. Money came easier than ever before. Not much at first, just enough to eat. Jannat told herself, this is temporary. This is for my children. But temporary things have a way of becoming permanent. Days turned into weeks, weeks into years. The stories became more dramatic. The tears came quicker, the lies smoother. People didn't see manipulation. They saw a broken mother, but behind closed doors, Jannat was changing. Her children weren't just children anymore. They were tools. When her son hesitated, she scolded him. When her daughter cried, she silenced her. Do you want to starve? She would whisper angrily. Do you want to sleep on the streets? Slowly, the guilt faded. Money replaced it. She began to dress better, eat better, live better. But something strange happened. The more she earned, the less peace she felt. At night, when her children slept, Jannat would sit alone and feel an emptiness she couldn't explain. A weight pressed on her chest, as if her heart knew something her mind refused to accept. Still, she continued, because stopping meant facing the truth, and Janat Noor wasn't ready for that, not yet. What she didn't realize was this. Every coin she collected with deception was quietly writing a future moment. A moment where excuses would end. A moment where there would be no crowd, no sympathy, no escape. That moment was waiting for her, right there, in front of the Kaaba. At first, Janat Noor convinced herself she was doing nothing wrong. I'm not stealing. I'm not hurting anyone. I'm just asking for help. That's how every sin begins. Quiet, reasonable, justified. But the line between need and greed is thin, and Janat crossed it without realizing when. She learned quickly. She learned which stories made people stop, which words made eyes soften, which pauses made hands open wallets. She learned to cry on command. If her daughter looked healthy, Janat skipped a meal so the child would look weak the next day. If her son stood too straight, she told him to slouch. People don't give money to strong boys, she'd say. Soon it wasn't just the streets. She began visiting mosques after prayers, charity offices, online groups asking for urgent help. Everywhere she went, her children went first, silent, small, used. At night, her son would whisper, Ami, can I go to school like the other kids? Janat would turn away. Later, she said. Right now, we need money. Her daughter once asked, why do I have to pretend to be sick? Janat's voice turned sharp. Because Allah tests people who are patient. That sentence should have stopped her, but it didn't. Because by then, the money had changed her. What began as coins became bundles. What began as hunger became comfort. What began as survival became business. And worst of all, she stopped seeing her children as souls. She saw them as means. One evening, a man confronted her. I saw your children yesterday, he said quietly. They looked fine. Why are you lying? For a second, fear flashed across her face. Then anger replaced it. Do you think Allah will forgive you for questioning a helpless mother? She snapped. The man walked away, ashamed, and Janat smiled. That smile sealed something inside her. From that day on, guilt no longer visited her heart. Only fear did, a fear she buried under excuses. She began collecting money faster than ever, enough to rent a better place, enough to eat well, enough to dream. And that's when the thought came. Umrah. If I go to Allah's house, she told herself, everything will be washed away. She ignored the quiet voice inside her that whispered, Haram does not become halal by standing in front of the Kaaba. Her children felt the change. Her son grew silent. Her daughter stopped asking questions. They learned something children should never learn. That love can be conditional, that obedience can be forced, that lies can feed you. And with every day that passed, the weight grew heavier. Because some sins don't scream, they wait. They wait for the moment when truth and consequence finally meet. And Janat Noor was walking, step by step, toward that meeting, unaware that her children weren't just witnesses to her sin, they were the reason it would be exposed. Janat Noor began to believe her own lies. That is the most dangerous stage of sin. When a person no longer hides from people, but hides from their own heart, she would sit alone at night, counting the money she had collected that day. Her fingers moved quickly, confidently. There was no hesitation anymore, no shaking hands, no tears, only numbers. And with every count, she whispered the same sentence to herself. Allah knows my intentions. She said it so often that it started to sound true. Whenever guilt tried to rise, she crushed it with logic. I'm doing this for my children. If Allah didn't want this, He would stop me. Others steal millions, I'm just asking for help. She confused delay with approval. One evening, while scrolling through her phone, she saw a video. A woman standing in front of the Kaaba, crying uncontrollably. The caption read, all sins forgiven. Something inside Janat's chest tightened. This is it, she thought. This is my way out. That night she made a decision. She would go for Umrah, not with repentance, but with expectation. Expectation that the Kaaba would erase everything without questions. Expectation that Ihram would cover years of deception. Expectation that standing in Allah's house would force forgiveness. She didn't ask herself the most important question. With what money am I going? Because she already knew the answer, and she chose to ignore it. When she told her children, they didn't smile. Her son looked at her quietly. Ami, will Allah really forgive everything? The question pierced her. For a brief moment, fear returned, but she pushed it away. Allah is very merciful, she replied quickly. Don't ask such things. Her daughter hugged her legs. Will we stop asking people for money after that? Janat paused, just for a second. Then she said, yes, after Umrah, everything will be clean. It was another lie, but this one was different. This one was directed upward. She bought white clothes. She watched Umrah tutorials. She practiced du'as with tears, real tears this time. But tears alone do not wash haram. Deep inside, a strange anxiety began to grow. Her sleep became restless. Her dreams became heavy. In one dream, she stood in a vast empty place calling out, but no one answered. In another, she tried to wash her hands, but the water turned black. She woke up shaking, yet even then, she said to herself, "Shaitan is trying to scare me." It was easier to blame Shaitan than to face herself. The day of travel came. She locked her house. She held her children close. She carried a heart full of hope and a past full of unpaid debts to truth. As the plane lifted into the sky, Jannat closed her eyes. "Ya Allah," she whispered, "I'm coming to you." But she didn't realize something terrifying. She wasn't going to Allah's house to surrender. She was going there to negotiate, and Allah is not negotiated with. Makkah was nothing like Jannat Noor had imagined. It was heavier, not in sound, but in presence. The moment she stepped out of the bus, her breath caught in her throat. The air felt different, as if every step was being watched, measured. People around her were crying. Some were smiling through tears. Some stood frozen, unable to move. Jannat adjusted her abaya and lowered her gaze. "I'm here," she told herself. "Allah invited me." That thought gave her comfort. Inside the haram, the first sight of the Kaaba struck her like a wave. Black, massive, silent, standing exactly where it had stood for centuries, witnessing every truth and every lie. Her eyes filled with tears. Real tears. For the first time in years, her chest felt tight, not with fear, but with emotion. "Ya Allah," she whispered, her voice breaking. People around her noticed. They always did. A woman beside her murmured, "She's crying like her heart is pure." Another said, "Allah must love her very much." Jannat heard them, and something dangerous happened. Their words fed her belief. "See," she thought, "even people can feel my sincerity." She began her tawaf slowly, carefully. Every step was controlled, every dua perfectly memorized. She asked for forgiveness. She asked for ease. She asked for a new beginning. But she never said the words that mattered most. "Ya Allah, I earned haram," because saying it would make it real. Between rounds, she sat near a pillar and watched others. A man crying uncontrollably, a woman clutching her chest, a child praying with raised hands. Jannat felt different, calmer, almost victorious. Nothing happened, she noticed. No sign, no punishment. Her confidence grew. Maybe Allah already forgave me, she thought. That night, alone in her hotel room, she prayed longer than she had prayed in years. Her forehead touched the prayer mat again and again, yet every time she closed her eyes, her children's faces appeared, not smiling, just watching. She opened her eyes, startled. Her heart began to race. "Stop," she whispered to herself. "This is just emotion." The next morning, she returned to the haram before Fajr. The marble floor was cool beneath her feet. The sky was still dark. She sat facing the Kaaba. This time she didn't cry. She felt empty. A strange numbness spread through her body, as if something inside her was slowly disconnecting. She placed her hands in dua. Her lips moved, but her heart hesitated. For the first time, a terrifying thought crossed her mind. What if this place doesn't accept lies? Her breathing became shallow. She stood up to leave. That's when she felt it. A sudden pressure in her chest, not pain, but weight, as if years of deception were pressing down at once. She tried to inhale. Air wouldn't come. Her fingers began to tremble. People around her continued walking, unaware that something unseen had already begun. Jannat looked up at the Kaaba one last time, and deep inside her soul, a realization surfaced. Too late to stop it. This place does not change people. It reveals them, and what was about to be revealed would shake everyone who witnessed it. The haram was alive. Footsteps echoed on the marble floor. Soft cries blended with whispered duas. The Kaaba stood silent, unchanging, unblinking. Jannat Noor was sitting right there, facing it. Her hands were raised, but they felt heavy, as if invisible chains were pulling them down. Her chest tightened again, this time stronger. She tried to stand. Her legs refused. A strange heat surged through her body, followed by an unbearable cold. Her vision blurred. The Kaaba seemed to tilt, then straighten again, as if watching her. Her lips parted. No words came out. Instead, a broken gasp escaped her throat. A woman nearby turned her head. "Are you okay?" she asked. Jannat didn't answer. Her fingers curled inward suddenly, bending at impossible angles. A sharp pain shot through her arms. She cried out, one short, terrified sound. People around her stopped. Her face lifted slowly toward the Kaaba, and then her features began to change, not all at once, not like a dream, but slowly, deliberately, as if every second was meant to be witnessed. Her skin tightened across her face, her jaw stretched downward with a sickening pull, her eyes widened, whites showing, frozen in horror, her tongue pushed forward, slipping out of her mouth, too long, too dark. Trembling as if it no longer belonged to her, screams erupted, "Ya Allah! What is happening to her?" Before anyone could reach her, coarse, thick hair began to burst through her skin. It crawled along her arms, spread across her neck, covered her cheeks, not soft, not human, animal-like. Her hands slammed onto the marble floor. Scratch, long, black nails tore out from her fingers, scraping against the stone, leaving marks where her palms had been moments before. Her feet twisted painfully inward, her back hunched forward, her body contorted, shrinking and stretching in places no body should. The woman who had come for Umrah was disappearing. In her place stood something unrecognizable, a creature half bent, half crawling, breathing hard, crying, because despite the transformation, her eyes were still human, and they were filled with terror. She tried to speak, I, but her voice came out distorted, broken between a sob and a growl. People backed away in panic. Some fell to the ground in fear. Others covered their faces, whispering verses they barely remembered. Guards rushed in, but froze. No one knew what to do, because this wasn't illness. This wasn't madness. This was exposure. Janat's mind was screaming now. Memories flooded her all at once. Her son lowering his eyes, her daughter pretending to be sick, the lies, the excuses, the money counted at night. "This is for my children." The thought echoed mockingly. A voice, quiet but crushing, rose inside her chest. "You used what I entrusted to you. You turned mercy into a tool. You brought lies to my house." Tears streamed down her altered face, not tears of performance, not tears of expectation, tears of truth. She understood now. This wasn't punishment just for haram money. This was for using innocence to feed deception. Her body shook violently one last time. Then silence, not peace, just stillness. The crowd stood frozen, staring at the proof that some sins are not washed away by distance, or clothing, or standing in a holy place. Some sins follow you there, right to the front of the Kaaba. The haram slowly returned to motion, not because people had forgotten, but because some truths are too heavy to carry for long. Guards cleared the area. Whispers followed every step. No one spoke loudly. No one laughed. Even the air felt cautious. What remained was not fear alone. It was understanding. Janat Noor was taken away. No cameras, no explanations, no announcements. Some said she collapsed. Some said she vanished from sight. No official words were ever given, but those who saw her, they never forgot. Days later, far away from Makkah, two children sat in a small room. Her son stared at the floor, silent. Her daughter clutched her hands, confused. They had been brought to relatives, people who asked questions Janat had avoided for years. The truth came out slowly, painfully. There were no screams, no accusations, just quiet realizations. The boy finally spoke one night. "Ami used to say Allah tests patient people," he whispered. "Was that test for us or for her?" No one answered, because some questions are answered by life itself. The children were enrolled in school. They were fed without conditions. They were loved without performance. And for the first time, they slept without fear. As for the story of Janat Noor, it spread, not as gossip, but as a warning. Scholars spoke carefully. Elders lowered their voices. Mothers held their children tighter. The lesson became clear. Allah does not need our journeys. He needs our honesty. The Kaaba does not forgive by presence alone. Ihram does not erase injustice. Tears do not outweigh exploitation, especially when innocence is used as currency, because haram does not become halal by standing in a holy place, and repentance is not words spoken at a sacred site. It is truth accepted before you arrive there. That day, the Kaaba did not change. People did. They learned that Allah sees beyond crowds, beyond appearances, beyond stories told to gain sympathy. He sees the source. He sees the intention. He sees the price paid by others for our comfort. And when justice comes, it comes perfectly. Not early, not late, exactly on time.